Welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is my good friend, Ravi Patel. Ravi, welcome on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Pleasure is all ours. Let's start with who is Ravi?
Hi, who is Ravi, man? I gotta dig a lot deeper, and I'm going to tell you, there's nothing on the surface, and I'm sure you can attest to that, No, but yeah, I'll break it down professionally and personally. I guess might be the only way that I see it. But professionally, I, I see myself, and that could differ from someone else looking at me, as a risk taker, opportunistic to a fault, and a value seeker, and a value adder in everything that I get involved with. For people who don't know, I'm involved in a lot of different ventures in different industries, from pharmaceuticals to e-commerce, supply chain logistics, and dabbled into real estate as well, and health and wellness type of businesses. So again, anything that is opportunistic, has immense value built in as well. Is what I would I'll go for. And then personally, I'm a husband to a lovely, beautiful, and supporting wife, and a father of two lovely kids. My daughter, she's 5 years old, and my son, he's 3 years old. And really, they are the ones who give all the perspective in life. So that pretty much rounds up. And anything more, I'll be giving out too much information.
Well, you are the definition of someone who has his hands full, but is living life to the full and enjoying it. So
I'm glad you see it that way. Yes.
I've said this to you, and I'll say this again. I wish to grow up and become like you one of these days.
Oh, man. That's the best compliment I've received so far. Thank you.
Well, let's see if we can keep it up, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's play a game. Okay.
Sure.
In one word.
Games.
In one word, underrated or overrated. Right? We'll talk about 8 or 10 different themes that impact us as a community, and things that I'm personally interested in learning from the best of the best. So when you're ready, we'll jump right in.
No, fire away.
All right. So let's talk about stock market prices.
Overrated.
DEI.
Overrated.
Okay. Cash.
Underrated, for
sure. Stock market valuations.
Overrated, man. For sure.
The metaverse.
Absolutely overrated. I'm still old school, so absolutely overrated.
What about the Great Resignation?
Yeah, I mean, I would put it as underrated.
Okay. Inflation.
Overrated.
Okay. What about NFT?
Overrated.
Okay. Let's see. Real estate.
Underrated.
All right. I think that's pretty much it. Thanks again for humoring me and playing along. That was fun.
Hopefully I did good, man.
I think you passed.
Okay. All right. That's all we need, right? Pass.
So let's bring this back to something more personal and more close to your heart. You do a lot of different things, right? How do I don't know, how do I frame this? Well, let's step back and say, what do you do for a living? And then follow that up with, why do all of this?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, I'm involved in a few different ventures, and I'm managing my entrepreneurial ADD pretty well so far. But yeah, and in everything that all the different industries and ventures that I'm involved with, I think the one that I'm increasingly more and more getting involved is, a company out of California. We are into warehousing and fulfillment. We're a third-party warehousing fulfillment company. We do all types of fulfillment and distribution. So, I would say that's what it's kind of consuming most of my time right now, and as well as some of the other e-commerce ventures, new ones, the brands and businesses in different verticals that I'm involved with. And to answer your second question, why do this now? I would say, like again, you know, going back to saying, I'm more opportunistic, and then more of a value seeker. So I always look for extracting any untapped value in the ventures that I get involved with. But really, for this particular business, warehousing and fulfillment, or e-commerce, that's for two main reasons, right? Like number one is, the world has changed and is changing, in the way that people shop. People get everything or consume everything, right? So we pretty much live in Amazon's world of convenience, where in few clicks, like if you're in business and if you're not matching that level of service in terms of few clicks, and then the product is there at your doorstep, within maybe 24 to max 48 hours. Like if you're not able to do that as a business, don't even try. The consumers have been spoiled, and then you just have to match with that Amazon's way of that, right? So now all the companies, I would say mostly product-based companies, they must have that omni-channel, presence in terms of selling wherever their customers are, and that the customers are pretty much everywhere, right? I mean, from physical to even on the digital world, they're in all different channels, right? So, once you sell, then really is the task of fulfilling the products, right? So that's where we come in, and that's what excites me is, companies who are really great at coming up with, developing brands, good at selling, but then they're stuck at really when it comes to fulfillment or the operations side, right? So you have to focus on your core competency as a company or a brand, and you want to leave all the unsexy, the dirty work for people who do that day in, day out, right? The warehousing and fulfillment companies, there are a ton of companies out there who do that, and that's what like you leave it to the experts, and that's where we come in, and we help companies grow and take that day-to-day kind of dirty work out, so that's number one, out of the two main reasons in terms of doing now. And the second I would say is, most like all the global companies as well, after experiencing firsthand, in this global, the whole globalized economy, and then this whole time it was all about globalization, like act local, think global kind of thing, and then the whole just-in-time inventory model as well, right? I mean, all the big companies, they experience firsthand what happens when the supply chain stops. Like you can't really summon upon the inventory halfway across the world, to your warehouse or at least to the stores. So, and that has really changed how companies operate, right? They now more and more companies, it could be anyone, right? From raw material providers, semi-finished goods to finished goods, like they want their inventory A, closer to their customer, and B, they pretty much want it on time, and really like to have a buffer, so that if there are any interruptions in the supply chain, they have enough to kind of make it through until that is solved. So that's a world that we live in. It's getting more and more digital, as well as you can't really take away the physical aspect of the nature of the businesses or the products itself, unless everything goes NFTs, then like even the food, yeah, sure, I'll take In-N-Out burgers NFT instead of the actual In-N-Out, right? So it's not that's not happening. You and me, we both know, unless you're in metaverse, I guess. I don't know if Mark Zuckerberg has his way, maybe we would be. But until then, I guess warehousing and fulfillment companies, they would, you know, continue to provide a lot of values in terms of that storage space to fulfillment and just helping that distribution for them.
I agree. And a couple of things that stood out to me. One, it's almost like when you ask a parent who's your favorite child, and they shy away from answering that. But
Oh, my dad won't. Yes, you know that.
So you're pretty clear about this warehousing and the third-party logistics is your favorite child. So that's good to know. The other thing that stuck out to me is you said consumers and convenience, right? And we got to stick to that. And if you're not able to provide that, don't even bother jumping into the business. And then third thing is you got to understand what your core business is and just stick to that. You call it dirty work, but I think that's really exciting. And that's the difference between whether you can make it or not, right? So the efficiencies, the ability to go in and really fine tune those operations, which is what you guys are really good at that, right? And that's why you're able to provide that value to your customers, not only take away that pain from them, but then turn that around and extremely kind of be focused on driving those efficiencies to scale. So I really love that about this business, that you've really scaled from nothing to making it a really large, efficient organization. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. And I think there's a lot more work to be done from the efficiencies point of view. And same, I mean, we did ride the wave of the whole e-commerce and, the whole warehousing sort of boom as well. But yeah, I mean, the companies grow, and that's the thing, right? I mean, our customers, they like to focus, on what they do. And if they do well, then in a way we do well. There's a lot more work for us.
True. And, one other thing that this pandemic really brought out, at least you've experienced it firsthand, is as we stop moving as individuals, the importance of these physical goods, right? So we personally went virtual, and at the same time, the importance of these physical goods was never more important, right? And that dichotomy of you brought it up in a just-in-time inventory perspective, but this rush we had where aisles and shelves were empty and things weren't getting stocked up, cars not getting delivered. It was very interesting where all of this logistics work that happens in the background came to the forefront and was a living room discussion.
Right. Absolutely. And, speaking about retail shelves and such, I really thought that, the toilet paper was going to be the new currency or something.
Yes.
The way that everyone was going after it.
Yeah, it almost was.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, there is a lot that happens, right? It's very dynamic. It's very resource intensive as a business. What is the biggest challenge you face as a business that is helping other businesses thrive?
Sure. And and I'll answer this in all the businesses that I'm involved with, not just this particular one. I think that the challenge is, right, in at least in today's world, that what we face, and it's pretty similar to what the next business is facing, is obviously the labor shortage, which again is very ubiquitous. It's kind of widely used, loosely used term as well in terms of labor shortage. But then it's about getting the labor, providing, keeping your workers safe as well at the same time, which now that's an added burden for the business. Obviously giving them, it's not even 5 years or 10 years ago where the culture of the company, everything was there, it was mentioned, but it was more mentioned for bigger companies, right? I mean, 500 people company or 1,000 employee company, and plus the culture was really for like those type of companies. But now it's even for you, if you're like 5 people, small business, you gotta have the same sort of working environment, and just because not that's what is being discussed everywhere. So it's not just that notion for the boardrooms and HR rooms and everything, in today's world. So that's one of the challenges as well in terms of how you keep up with that, at your organization. And then obviously the inflation, that we are talking about, which is increased cost. But I remember I did say it's underrated, but end of the day, once the and companies are good at passing down the cost, right? So, and it's a whole circle as well. People do get paid more, and then they're going to be able to afford a little bit more, and then companies, they pass on that cost of the product, down the supply chain to the. So it's a full circle at the end of the day. And then, so obviously increased costs, and really, like, at the same time, as a company business, whatever you're doing, you got to keep growing without breaking apart. So that's just some of the things I would say, like as challenges that we face on day to day.
I'm sure that keeps you excited and motivated and inspired, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so do the opportunities. So let's talk about those.
Sure. Yeah. I think the opportunities, like, I'm working on a few of them, but some of the ones that I get excited is the e-commerce ones, that I'm currently working on a few different industries, because and the reason I'm excited about those is, even though, when you say the word e-commerce, the first company that comes to your mind is Amazon, right? And in terms of like what they have done, from retail perspective, right? So even with the Amazon's massive success, there's still a lot of untapped opportunities. There's massive scope for bringing efficiencies, bringing scale, to like the smaller businesses, bringing improvements, and then there's a lot of room for differentiation in terms of how you sell the products, how you manage the products. Right now, everyone's still kind of, I wouldn't say, yeah, maybe 2.0, but we are, we are still, there's a lot of 3.0, 4.0s that are left in this game, where, inventories could be really managed creatively as well. I would say one example, let's say, as a big company, big brand, right? I mean, up until now, you're going after the Walmarts and Targets, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any health, let's say beauty company, right? I mean, you have your brand, you have, as a company, you do, have certain X number of inventory, and then you send it out and you reserve it for XYZ retailer and so and so. And then you're fighting for the same limited shelf space, out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, now with the whole e-commerce, you could still have that one set of inventory, which exactly in your centralized or at least strategic locations in the country, and then have so many other of your e-commerce distributors just have that. And online, it's infinite shelf space. There's no end to that. So you could get really creative in terms of getting your product in front of who's looking for. And then another thing I like about e-commerce is that, okay, when a consumer goes to Target or Walmart or a beauty supply store, right? I mean, you're looking at a brand, and all you are going to base your decision is based upon the packaging, right? And what it says on the packaging. Whereas online, it becomes a lot of content driven. There are influencers, there's blogs and such, and there's so much more that you could have around that product, and very relevant content around the product that makes that helps the consumer make the right decision, if it's really for that or not.
True. You can actually personalize that. One might say that there is too much information,
Right.
but then the good thing with e-commerce and where it's headed is it also allows you to it's smart enough to now start learning what your preferences are. And
Right.
at the same time, you can filter a lot of the things out. So you don't have to deal with a whole lot of noise that you can get overwhelmed with when you're walking into a store and you see 100 choices for the same product.
Yep, no, absolutely. And look, the physical stores are still, going to be there. This is more, complementing. I think we talked about it in the past as well, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's something like, back in the day when, Twitter and, everything else was coming along. Facebook, when Facebook was new, as the marketing people were like, all right, we need to have a social media strategy, but now it's not even a social media strategy. It's your marketing strategy, like
Table
that's
stakes.
by default, it's that,
Yeah, true.
Um,
It's not a choice anymore. It's just table
right.
stakes. If you're
Yeah.
playing this game, you gotta have these tools.
Right. Before it used to be like, all right, TV ads, so we're going to focus on that, and a bunch of interns kind of focusing on the rest of the social media, which is not the case. It's completely the other way. It's like your YouTube strategy is probably your number one in terms of
Yeah.
ads and putting out content, right? So world's changing. You're living in a different world, and it's still a long way to go when it comes
True.
to that.
So as we look forward, let's look a little back in the rearview mirror. You've been doing this a while, and you've been generally doing a lot of things for some time. I'm curious to hear more about one uh, an example where things didn't play out the way you had wished or expected, and it became a lesson. And on the other end, I would love to hear you brag a little bit, which you don't do at all, uh, about a success story that played out as you had expected and blew out your expectations.
I don't know, man. That's that's again. You asked me to pick that favorite child kind of thing, but again, yeah, I mean, something learn from learning standpoint. You know there's a lot of things you learn on daily basis and everything that you have done. I mean, to kind of summarize, in terms of what has been learned, I would say that nothing is constant. Like um, you know like success, that's not constant, and failure, that's not constant, right? So, and it's just about embracing the fact that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong, so that shouldn't stop you. Another thing, interestingly, and again, that could be specific to me, me over here, but and this could be a little bit of a little nugget for other business owners as well, is I used to sort of over manage everything that I was doing, and I don't know, I read somewhere or saw a video somewhere where someone was like, just try not to manage. It was like, do less, like honestly, do less stuff and see how well things go. I was like, how can that be, man? Because I said, I don't have enough hours in the day, like, and I was like, let's try it out, and surprisingly, it really worked. Like, I would say, people should give that a try. By not managing, I think you'll be managing a whole lot better, when it
Let
comes
go
to that.
and be less of a control freak and
Oh yeah, yeah, no, for sure, and that has worked, and that has actually worked in my favor in terms of doing different things and more things. Like if you're managing less, if that's working out, then
you
you have more time to do more, which wasn't the idea in the first place to not do it. Like, hey man, just not don't do enough stuff during the day. But I guess that has worked out in terms of helping me manage a little bit more when it comes to it.
that's always something to learn.
Yeah,
Well, let's come to the favorite part of the show for me, at least, which is the one-line life lessons. These
yeah.
are short, but extremely profound, and I find them to be often life-changing. And we would love to hear some of your one-line life lessons.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those, to be quite honest. And every time I come across good ones, I actually jot it down, and because I mean, you read it, and then it's very profounding at that moment, and then like after a while, you're going to forget about it. But it's good to kind of go back and keep it's going to keep reminding you about, it's one of those black diaries that you have, and you're going to pass it down to your kids or someone. It's like, hey, this is what I've accumulated over the period of, decades, and maybe this will help you out if they don't turn it into NFT.
Well, I think that's going to happen, and we're going to remain, at least for a while now, the uncool, weird parents that nobody wants to listen to. But I love how you mentioned it as a black diary, right? As a black book. It is my cheat sheet, right? It is because as entrepreneurs, we have those down days, and you need something that's not an inspiring quote, but something that you can really act on, right? That's something that brings you back to, hey, gotta get up, right?
Right.
Entrepreneurship is going to put you down. All you do is get up, start walking again. So,
right. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, some of the ones that, I mean, there are quite a few, but some of the ones that come to my mind, at least that I kind of put together was, in life or business, it's nice to be important, but it's very important to be nice. And that's very underrated, I think I read it in a lot of places, and again, all these liners, I'm sorry, I'm not good at giving credits in terms of who said that or whatnot, but again, they're not mine, I'll tell you that.
Ravi, that's the whole point, right? There is a reason why we don't do attributions, because who cares who said it, right?
Right. No,
it's about who adopted it. If something makes a difference to you, and if you said it and it makes a difference to somebody else, as long as you don't make them your own, I personally don't care who said it. I mean, all due respect, right? I'm not trying to say that this is mine now, but it is. So,
no, absolutely, yeah. And it's all about, like, even though it doesn't matter who said, right? I mean, like you said, I think it's more about who's actually using it, end of the day, and that's what makes it more true, So yeah, that was one of them. I say, being an entrepreneur, you go through this a lot, as well as pain, and pain is inevitable. But the one thing is that suffering is optional. It's really up to you if you want to suffer. And it's not just for business too, right? I mean, in terms of life as well, like, it gives you a lot of things. It's inevitable. It's just, that's just how this world or the life or the universe kind of works. It's just ingrained, but then it's up to you how you want to react to it. So pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. That's the second one. Let's say third one is, this keeps me real as well in life is, you must not fool yourself, because you're the easiest to fool, yourself. So I like that, a lot, because, you could, I mean, if you think about it, you could convince yourself to anything, so just don't fool yourself, so things, and then, I mean, just from another business side, I think ideas are the easy part, and that's what I feel like I, come up with an idea and everything, but really the execution is what matters.
That's the money.
Yeah, and then sorry, go ahead.
I said you figured out the execution for sure.
No, I don't think that is a long way to go. But I'll tell you on the ideas part is every time I go, hey, to my wife, like every time I get an idea, I try to run it by her, and I was like, hey, babe, so I have this idea, and there's, oh my God, no, not a new one. She knows that this is going to be the beginning of something where this is going to consume me or whatnot, and she keeps me real, in check when it comes to, like, no, focus. Like, focus is needed as well. Like what Apple and what Tim Cook and those guys have said is that they've been, or I don't know if it's Steve Jobs or not, but like they've been proud, like they're proud of what they have done, but then they are also more proud of what they have not done, is what has helped them propel to such mammoth of, I don't even have the word to describe what that company is right now, right? So yeah, I mean, those are some of the ones. Yeah.
It reminded me of that incident you told me about buying how many? A few hundred domains.
That. Oh yeah. That's That was hurtful. Yeah. You know, nothing, I read this from that How I Met Your Mother, like nothing good happens after 1 a.m. So don't, don't do anything after, 1 a.m. It's, yeah.
Hey, that's another lesson right there.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Those are awesome, Ravi. Thanks again for sharing those. For our audience, we have an entire collection at onelifelifelessons.com. And anywhere you socialize digitally, we have them out there. Ravi, thanks again for sharing those lessons. It just confirmed my belief that I said at the beginning of this discussion, which is I want to grow up to be like you one day. Thanks again. And it's a pleasure to have you here. Would love to bring you back on, talk about more of these journeys and more about your journey and the different stories, and see where your entrepreneurial ADD takes you. And congrats again for what you have accomplished, and continued success, and good luck to you.
No, thank you, and thank you. I'd also like to thank, obviously my family, as well as all my the teammates and business partners in all the ventures. I mean, I can't do it by myself. I don't take any of that credit. It's all part of the teamwork.
Of course.
But thank you for having me on the show. It's always a delight.
Thanks, Ravi. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.